Hello, it's Len from Talk from the Homeland. Welcome back to the channel. Today's election day in Armenia, but I'm not going to talk about political parties. That's a matter for citizens like my wife. But as an investor, I have the right to discuss geopolitics that affects Armenia's stability and future. And what a bloody mess we have in the world right now, especially in our part. Today marks 100 days since Trump and Netanyahu's illegal and futile war on Iran. As I predicted, our neighbour is stronger as it now controls the Persian Gulf, and Trump's war of choice is making the world's economy suffer. The Gulf Arab states are in grave danger. How can they survive if they host hostile US and Israeli bases? If the Iranians hit desalination plants in retaliation for attacks on their infrastructure, the fake, glittery Gulf cities will collapse. In the Caucasus, as reported by the biased Zionist-controlled CNN, Azerbaijan is also being used by Israel to attack Iran. I've previously warned about the so-called Trump route in Armenia. It's a Western Trojan horse to poke the Russian bear, probably intended to place Israeli and American agents on Iran's border. It's the same sort of mad provocation that resulted in invasions of Georgia and Ukraine. Russia has warned Armenia of consequences. Europe has been as busy as Russia meddling in Armenia's elections. The presence of European leaders in Yerevan was an open endorsement of Armenia's ruling party. Even Ukrainian President Zelensky came, much to the Kremlin's chagrin. This was followed by a visit from J.D. Vance and a direct endorsement of Prime Minister Pashinyan by sleepy Trump himself. Imagine the uproar if China endorsed a specific candidate in the US midterm elections. I'm not against closer relations with the West, especially more diversified economic and even defence arrangement. Armenia shouldn't depend on an unreliable, hegemonic Russia. The Kremlin has backstabbed Armenians for more than a century since the illegal invasion of sovereign Armenia in 1920. The Kremlin illegally gave away internationally recognized Armenian lands, including the holy mountain Ararat, to invading Turks and Turkic Azerbaijanis. But the West has its own problems. So the caution here is that Armenia will not be safer or more democratic by embracing Europe and the US. The UK is shamefully complicit in Israel's evil. It reportedly jails more people for democratic protests against crimes against humanity than any other country. Even Australia is complicit, with the latest revelations that it sends explosives to devastate Palestinians. Australians have lost their freedom of speech. Unelected Zionists like Gillian Segal now have undemocratic power to forbid criticism of Israel. This is despite Israel being much worse than apartheid-era South Africa where she came from. Israel has even harmed brave Australians bringing aid to the Semitic Palestinian people, but the Australian government does nothing. However, the worst Western nation besides the US is Germany. Germans have been involved in 6 genocides since Herero and Namakwa, the first of the 20th century. Germany's politicians have insanely decided to support Zionist genocides in Palestine and Lebanon because they're ashamed of the Nazis. This is madness. Yet the Armenian government congratulates Israel, which has never recognized the Armenian genocide and its direct links to the Holocaust. Hitler took note of the fact that the Turks and Azeris could perpetrate genocide and no one cared. The Jewish author of the Genocide Convention, Raphael Lemkin, specifically mentioned the Armenian genocide. but the Holocaust was the only genocide according to Zionists, they misuse this as cover for their own crimes against humanity by falsely claiming that criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. Thus, Germany has ignored a genocide committed in Palestine by Jewish terrorist groups like the Irgun and Lehi since 1947. Shockingly, this was just after the Jews themselves, and forgotten others, had suffered genocide in Nazi Germany. No genocidal entity like that has a right to exist. Only people have a right to exist in international law. There are good people in every country, but there are only some nations willing to stand up for human rights. Bravo, Ireland, Iceland, the Netherlands, Slovenia and Spain. You were the true winners of Eurovision. I wish Australia and New Zealand had courageous leaders like Spain has. Armenia shouldn't have to take sides, west or the east. Its strength is its strategic position between these worlds like a bridge, a kamoorj, and that's how it should position itself politically. Its strength is also in its diaspora, but there's a huge schism that's been caused by both sides. On the one hand, the government has fallen into line with Turk and Azeri demands, strangely thinking that this will bring peace. Everyone knows that appeasement only emboldens dictators. In doing so, Armenia has sadly diminished the memory of those Armenians lost during the genocides. The government even attacked Armenian Christians who were ethnically cleansed from their indigenous homeland by Muslim Azerbaijanis, aided by Israel. On the other hand, the diaspora has failed to identify and support genuine alternative leaders to the government who aren't allied to the Kremlin. I'm sure that the majority of voters would support an alternative candidate if the diaspora was more united. Very few listened to Garganish's plea to support the homeland, regardless of its leaders. Armenia will vote for its future direction, and I hope it will heed the lessons of the past. I hope it will be a bridge between the worlds, a place where people can come to discuss peace like they do in Switzerland or Oman. There should not be a false peace based on appeasement and taking the side of the West. This video will probably be shadow banned because I have the temerity to call out the West's wrongdoing. Please help to break the negative algorithm by liking, sharing and subscribing. Thank you for watching. This is Len from Straight Talk from the Homeland.